All right, we are live. What is up,
Hey,
folks? Good to see you guys on here. I just got off work a little bit ago, so I was eating a microwave chicken pita sandwich. Talking to Ron here before we started this. I was trying to get it all down. I got it all down, so I think I'm good.
I can verify. He might have burnt the tongue a little bit.
It was hot, man. I think I was trying to get it done quicker, so I went about 30 seconds too long on it. So, but I got it down. We got James in here. Baranski, good to see you, man. DJ's in here. What's up? He says he's gonna be back in a few minutes. Phil, what's up, buddy? Auto Tree, what's up, Doug? What's up, Doug? I got a WAP report from Doug just a while ago.
Wappapello? Cool.
Yep. And
Phil says hammering him.
Yeah, he's got it figured out. He's had a few years. I was gonna get together with him sometime, and he said, well, just let me know when you get a chance. He said, I'm off Saturday through Monday. Or what do you say? Sunday through Monday or something. But he's retired, so he's basically saying he can go anytime.
I like
Just kind of rubbing it in. Yeah, just rubbing it in. Phil says, DJ, do you need some beer therapy for your knee? Man, I think I saw a picture of that. Bascot 1960s on here. What's up? Try to run through all these comments. Cody Arnold, he just sent me. Yeah, Cody just sent me a link of the Ozarks report. I didn't have a chance to write it down, but I'll definitely go over it here in a little while. Jay Beffa, what is up, bro? Bass RX is in here. Tom Morehouse, what's up, dude? Got Kobe Baker Fishing. Kobe, here, let's throw this up there. We'll just start right here. This is a good place to dig in. He says, what are the chances I go catch some fish on Egypt with a jig Saturday?
The answer to that question is always high. Yeah, it's probably a really good choice Saturday, given this cold front we're all gonna experience or will have experienced today. So I would I'd put a jig or something like that in your hand and stick with it. I don't think with this weather, it's a day to change a bunch of baits all day long. So yeah, it's a jig would be a good a choice as any.
Yeah, I was over there yesterday. Geez, these days are all running together, and we caught some jig fish. I was throwing that little Cumberland Pro Procaster in the naked crawl. I had it kind of trimmed out like finesse style with a little zoom speed crawl in the back. And I caught 3 or 4 or 5 fish, something like that on it.
Did you trim that skirt back the way you did like at the Ozarks?
Yeah, I did. I had that little finesse collar. It's still the same jig. I still haven't lost it. It's probably got about 15 hours on it. It's still tied on. So it's kind of jig you want, one that you don't lose all the time. They're hard to find.
Yeah, that's what I caught most of my fish on that the other day too. Yesterday, I only caught one moving bait fish yesterday.
I couldn't get bit. I tried. I mean, I threw a chatterbait for probably a good 20 minutes. I threw a rock crawler for about 20 minutes, and I think I thought about a jerk bait, but I kept seeing all those fish down on the bottom. There's a lot of fish that are out there a little bit deeper still, just kind of waiting to move up. And I thought, well, maybe if I throw I threw a 5XD too. I thought, well, if I throw a 5XD and a rock crawler through them, I can get one to just react to it. And it never happened, but it was just kind of like you had to kind of slow down and kind of coax them into biting.
Probably a combination of cold front, water dropping, and fishing pressure. A lot of things.
I think so.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
You got a tournament tomorrow, right?
Yeah. For those listening that in the area that don't know, every Good Friday, there's a couple of gentlemen that put on a tournament, just called the Good Friday tournament. And I think it's the old Maytag plant that was in Heron. Those guys originally had its tournament out here, and it's just kind of carried over for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years or however long it's been. And it always gets a really good turnout. we usually get 50, 60 boats. And most years, I think they just pay the top 3 places. It's like $30 to get in it. It's not a lot of money. And I know they only pay the top 3 places because I have finished 4th.
Man, that happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, I had a couple years ago. We had a great day. We had some storms roll through in the morning. We actually had to get under a boat dock because of lightning for a little while in the morning. But the fish bit for us all day long. We caught like 15 overs, and we had 14 and some change. And anyone familiar with Egypt knows, 4 fish, 14 pounds on Egypt. You just take it every day. And we ended up 4th, of course.
Jeez.
But that's just the way. That's the way it goes. So I don't think 14 pounds tomorrow will catch check. I would imagine.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Are you fishing for 4 overs and 1 under? How's that work?
Yeah,
4 overs.
Just 4 overs. Yeah, and even if they allowed you unders, that's not going to get you anywhere anyway.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, there's too many good fishermen. Someone's going to have 4 overs. A lot of people will have 4 overs.
Yeah.
So.
Got Wadded Fishing in here. What's up, man? It's good to see you on here. And James says he is a first-time watcher. Well, welcome to the program. It's good to see you on here.
Hey, James. Good to have
Larry
you,
on here.
Yeah.
Kevin Kane. Let's see here. I'm going to read some more of these comments before we get too far behind. Last time we got really far behind. I kept scrolling down thinking I was caught up, and they just kept on coming.
Yeah, I don't see them over on this end. You're running the show, so
can you see them?
Not much help. Just when you pop them up.
Oh, because there should be a section that says private chat. It should say something about chat on there. If you click on that, you'll be able to see the comments.
Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Private chat. Comments.
Yeah, try that. Your fingernails.
It blocks out my screen, though. I can't see you.
Oh, well, that's not going to work. You got to see me.
Work.
Okay. Well, I'll run it from this side of the screen. Yeah. Bass Guy 1960 says he's got a shout out to Ron. Thanks for the slow fall with finesse jig tip last week. Paid off big time on Saturday.
I think that's a good deal, man. I'm glad that helped. That rate of fall is, for me, one of my most important things jig fishing in the spring. I used to, you guys talked about that peewee jig a couple shows ago, cottonmouth lures.
Mm-hmm.
And Fred's jigs always ran a little heavy they're consistent, but they always ran a little heavy. And I would literally take pliers and peel some lead off the sides of the jig before a tournament to get them to fall just the right. And when I got it in my brain where I had it, was kind of like, how you want a jerk bait to look just right. When I got that jig to fall just the way I wanted to, then I had confidence. And it was probably more my confidence than anything. But I think it does make a difference in these transitional times.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still kind of hung up on that finesse jig right now. I just, as long as I keep getting bites on something, I just keep throwing it until it quits working.
There's no reason to fix what's not broken.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Auto Treve here. That's Doug. He says he really likes to send Gabe fish pictures while he's working. Yeah. He sent me some good pictures the other day. I think he had about 25 pounds down there on Wappapello, and
that's pretty good.
I was trying to focus on my job. It's kind of hard to do. So let's
the mail truck's in the ditch.
Yeah, or take out a couple mailboxes. Let's do a quick Wappapello report. I got several lakes on here. So our first guest tonight is going to be Eric Prey from Focused Fishing Guide Service down on Tablerock Lake. He's been a full-time guide for quite a while. He actually has a YouTube channel that he does weekly or semi-monthly fishing reports on there. So after he's on here, you guys can go check out that stuff. But I reached out to him, and he was nice enough to jump on here. So he'll probably be on in about 10 minutes or so, something like that. I'm looking forward to that. Super nice guy, really good fisherman, well known in the area. But Doug Cheatham sent me a WAP report a while ago. Actually, I called him and got a pretty detailed report. This is from Tuesday of this week. And WAP is at 364. It's about 4 feet over summer pool. And there's been the bite's been back in the creeks on brush. So flipping plastics and jigs. But he said it's real scattered. It's not everywhere. It's you just gotta. In fact, he said he fished a tournament. I think they got second in the weekend series down there. I think that's what they call it, last week or the week before. But they had to run a bunch of different creeks to get their keepers. I think he said they only caught 7 keepers or something. They caught the right ones. They had almost 19 pounds, but it wasn't like you just pull in one creek and just start wrecking them. It was about bouncing around and trying different areas until you got a bite. And he said, if you get a bite, it's a good one right now. But fish are scattered. The water temperature about 55 on the main lake and about 57 in the creeks. And the river is about 3 inches of visibility. And the creeks are 1 to 2 foot visibility. And so what he was saying was that the fish are definitely moving towards their spawning areas. So, like the coves and the flats in the back, things like that, you're going to be able to find them probably that last deep water. And, they're probably just waiting for the conditions to get right. And, the water's 57, still maybe a little bit cold. I think probably 62, 63 is probably when they'll really consider what they want to do. Even though this full moon, there may have been some that pulled up and spawned, but I think they're going to want that. They're going to want that water to drop a little bit. That's kind of how those river fish are. I know that happens at Kentucky Lake. If the water's high, they'll just hold off. They'll hold their eggs and they won't wait, or they won't get up there and spawn, because they know if they spawn up there and the water drops, and their beds are high and dry. So they'll just sit and wait for it to get right.
Yeah, it's amazing how they know that water's moving like that. Even here on Egypt, it doesn't fluctuate anything like the lakes you just mentioned, but it's gotten a foot and a half high with recent rains, and then it slowly drains out. And I noticed today when I drove over the spillway, it was finally right at, the wind was blowing some over a little bit, but it was finally right at pool, basically. And even on a lake that doesn't switch a lot, they know. They just do. I don't know how they know, but they do. And
yeah, I see Doug on here. Doug Willihan. I hope I'm saying your name right. He sent me a report too from Wappapello. He said he caught a few fish in the backs of the coves on flats using a spinnerbait, and he said there were bass actually chasing shad. And he also caught some crappie in the mouths of the creeks, in the brush on jigs. He said overall it was really, really slow, and he was fishing near the Shiona area, which is kind of where the river dumps into the lake for the most part. So it seems like the fishing is, things are still kind of scattered and slow, and you just gotta jump around. You gotta keep your head down and poke around till you find the fish.
Sounds like the fish are going the right direction. And when looks like starting Saturday, Sunday is supposed to really warm up. All of next week looks really warm. Sounds like next week's going to be a really good time to be on the water.
Yeah, we were right there, and then here comes this nice, friendly little cold front. And knocks those temperatures back down, which
I'm kind of thankful for it, though. I think I'm kind of glad to see things kind of slow down a little bit. I think it'll time things out pretty good.
Yeah. Let me go. I see Eric. We got Eric Prey in the queue down there. Let me, Eric, real quick. Let me just kind of look through these questions, and then we'll bring you right in. Kobe Baker says he is just starting to fish jigs. So, man, jigs, keep it in your hand. It takes a little bit to get used to it.
I would say this to a young angler: or anyone just starting out jig fishing, I think that's probably, if you can learn to jig fish, I think that leads to everything else. You're going to be a good worm fisherman. If you think about, half the lures we throw are some offset of a jig. A spinnerbait is a jig with 2 blades on top of it. So be patient. Jig isn't always something you get a lot of bites. Oftentimes they're the better fish of the day, though, on a jig. And so don't get discouraged. Stick with it, and that jig is my first love. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a confidence bait. Let's bring Eric Prey in here and see what his thoughts are on the jig. So we're gonna bring Eric Prey in here. He's a Focused Fishing Guide Service out of Tablerock. We'll pull him up and see what he's got to say. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Not much, man. What's going on?
Nothing. We're just talking a little fishing. We kind of touched on a couple of the lakes in our area, and I saw you pop up, and we were talking a little bit of jig fishing. Is that the gateway lure, like we were saying earlier?
Yes. Yeah, that is the gateway lure for sure. It's my favorite way to fish by far. And the great thing about a jig is that you can use it so many different ways. You can work it slow on the bottom. You can flip it around cover. You can swim it. Even if you've got grass, we don't have grass around here, but if you've got grass, you can swim it in the grass. You can swim it along boat docks. You can use a jig so many different ways. It's my favorite way to fish, and it's quite possibly the most effective lure you can use in bass fishing.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. There's so many ways to fish that jig. Like Lake of the Ozarks a lot, and I'm sure the same thing happens on Tablerock. You can fish it around the brush, but then you can swim it right along the side of those docks, especially in the fall time. And
exactly, yeah,
perfect bait.
Absolutely. I mean, and I know that Ron made comment when I first came on that's how, a lot of times the biggest fish of the day are going to get caught on a jig. A lot of times, you can burn down a bank with a crankbait or spinnerbait and pick up a bunch of fish. But if you slow down with a jig and hit those individual targets and those individual pieces of cover, you've got a lot better chance to pick off that one big fish that may be on that bank that's not going to chase after a bait, but if it lands in her face, she's going to eat it.
Yes, sir. Find that a lot. So what's going on at Tablerock right now? How's the fishing been?
It's kind of feast or famine. Parts of the lake are fishing incredibly good. I've had some really good trips this past week in the upper ends, and I know talking to some of the other guides, we've caught quite a few fish in the more up the White River, more up the Kings River, up the James, and even up Long Creek. But it seems like the dam area and the mid lake are kind of behind. The water is a lot clearer down there, and we had all that rain. What was 2 weeks ago now, or 10 days ago, and the river's muddied up, and now they've got just a good solid stain. They're a lot warmer, and the fish are a lot more active when you get up in that dirtier water. So a lot of buck males in that dirty water cruising already. Up there looking for areas to start building beds, and a few of the better females are starting to move up and feed pretty good in that dirtier water. The Clearwater, it's been a bit of a struggle. I mean, it's not uncommon to go out on a 4-hour trip and only catch 6 or 8 fish in the Clearwater, but if you go to the dirty water, 15, 20, 25 fish is definitely a possibility.
So do you find that I've always heard that the smallmouth will spawn before the largemouth. Is that something that you found in your years of experience?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the smallmouth generally is kind of a general rule. Our fish, the bulk of our fish spawn on the full moon in April. Most of them, it usually falls right around April 15th, sometimes a little later, sometimes a little earlier. That's when you see most of the largemouth up. The smallmouth, it wouldn't surprise me with the warm weather we've got coming this week to start seeing smallmouth on beds at the end of this coming week. They will move up fast, they will spawn fast, and they'll be out of there. And then usually the spots, the Kentuckys will follow them, and then the largemouth are the last ones to go ahead and spawn.
Okay, cool. And so are you looking, what type of areas are you looking for right now as these fish move in, in their transition periods from the pre-spawn to the spawn?
Sure. Our best areas right now are transition banks where we're going from rock to gravel. Especially those kind of the chunk rock to the gravel pockets where they will actually spawn. And of course, the north side of the lake is always going to be better because it gets more sun, it gets full sun, so that water is going to be warmer. But the majority of the fish I'm catching right now are just inside those points leading to those spawning pockets. Where we're finding the smaller buck males are actually back in those pockets. Those are the ones that are up there cruising, trying to find a spot, maybe next to a laydown or a stump or something where they're going to build a nest and try to entice the female to come up. The better fish have all been just inside those points, or even some of them on top of the points.
Okay. Winning Edge Fishing says, "What's up, Eric? It's been a while. Congrats on the new boat."
Well, let me see. I believe I know who that is, and I can't think of his name right now.
That is Rob Rixford.
Rob Rixford, that's it. Yeah. Yes, that is Rob Rixford.
Area.
Yep. I remember Rob back. We worked at Central Pro-Am together back in the late 50s. It seems like.
Yeah. Here's a question for you from Kenneth Dennis. I'll be fishing Tablerock April 23rd and 24th. What's Eric's predictions on what stage the fish will be in at that time?
I would say the majority of your smallmouth and spots will be post-spawn. There will be a lot of largemouth that will be post-spawn, but you'll still probably find fish on beds. You'll still probably find some largemouth and maybe even some spots on beds. But for the most part, that late into April, a lot of it's going to be post-spawn fishing. A lot of topwater, swim bait, probably some, depending on weather, spinner bait, that sort of thing. Most of the fish will be post-spawn by the end of April.
Okay, great.
How deep of water do you find your smallmouth spawn there at Tablerock in general?
Depends on clarity. In a normal year, I've seen them spawn on average around 10 to 12 foot deep.
Okay.
The water, if it stays like it is, I'm sorry. If it stays like it is right now, where we've got
a little bit of a delay.
Okay.
I think we got a delay thing going.
Go ahead, Ron.
I was just going to say, Molax will spawn like in about 4 foot or so, all the way down to about 15, again, depending on clarity.
Correct.
But some of those bigger fish are the deeper ones.
Exactly. It seems like the bigger, better fish you will find on the beds that are 12, 15, even deeper than that if the water's clear enough. I've seen in years past when we've had ultra clear years down by the dam, especially if the lake's a little bit high, I've seen spotted bass spawning as deep as 20 feet deep.
Wow.
And I mean, the water is just that clear. You could clearly make out the bed and clearly make out the fish on the bed 20 feet deep.
Jeez.
Wow.
Colby Baker is saying he would love to go catch big smallmouth. Never caught one before. Well, this guy right here can put you on some smallmouth, so
it's that time of year. Yes, it's give them another week or so, and the big smallmouth are going to move up. We're already catching quite a few. I've had I think in the last 2 weeks, a couple of them over 4 pounds, and we had one that was pushing 5 pounds 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, they're already starting to move up. It'll be time. Our best time is usually mid-April through the first week or so of June, and the bulk of what we catch are smallmouth, and we do catch some pretty dang nice smallmouth on Tablerock.
So would you say it's a mix evenly of smallmouth, spots, or largemouth, or which one would you say you have more of in the lake right now?
Probably our dominant species is spots. Ever since we had a pretty devastating fish kill back in 99 and 2000, we were hit with largemouth bass virus. So that not only took out a lot of our largemouth, but it took out a lot of the bigger largemouth that were in the lake. So they've recovered. We do have a good population of largemouth, but they used to be the dominant species for the 8 to 10 years it took for them to recoup. The spots and the smallmouth really thrived, and we've got huge schools of spots that just roam the lake.
Okay, that's good to know. I've always curious about that. I didn't know. If you guys out there, you got any questions for Eric, get him on here. He's going to stay with us just for a little bit longer. Got a question here from Phil. He says he wants to know if you were familiar with Norm Driska. He was a guide down there that recently passed. He said his girlfriend is good friends with him and his wife.
Yeah, Norm was a great guy. Norm was a great guy. He and I talked quite a bit. He was one of the guides that you could talk to and he'd be honest with you, which is kind of nice. Not all of them are, but Norm was really a good guy, and I really enjoyed talking with Norm, and we did a lot of group trips and corporate trips together over the years. Yeah, I really enjoyed fishing around Norm. It was a shame to see that he passed.
Yeah. Well, condolences to his family. I think Ron dropped out. That happens. He's got kind of spotty internet service over there. Wadded Fishing wants to know, Eric, or he says, Eric, I remember when I did a guide trip with you a couple years ago, and we were catching smallmouth on a whopper plopper. Is that something that happens?
It does, yeah. Once they get post spawn, we catch a lot of them on top water. Usually, for that first hour and a half of the day, we'll catch them on top water. And as a guide, one of my favorite lures to put in a client's hand when it comes to top water is a whopper plopper, the smaller one that can throw it on a spinning rod. It's pretty easy. Throw it out, reel it in, and the fish just absolutely destroy it. You know, it's not like you don't know that you got a bite. They will try to rip the rod out of your hand, especially the smallmouth will. Yeah,
I can imagine. Let's see here. DJ's got a question. Let me pull this up here. He says jigs. I know each jig has a specific use, but what do you think the most versatile jig is? Flipping jig, football jig, etc.
My opinion, I'm a little biased, but my opinion is the Jewel Pro Spider jig. Just because the shape of the head, you can use it so many different ways. You can drag it on the bottom like you can a football jig. You can flip it into cover because it's got a good weed guard on it. It is designed to come through rock, which is what we fish most of the time here on Tablerock. So my opinion, it's probably the most universal jig out there. I've even used it as a swim jig. Put a Kitech swim bait on there as a trailer and cast it around, around laydowns and around boat docks around here and caught fish just swimming it like you would a swim jig.
Yep. I think it's kind of like, are you going to fish in mostly rock, or are you going to be pitching in wood, or is there grass involved? That, to me, that's the three different considerations for a jig personally.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
See, Kenneth Dennis wants to know, how is the Ned rig bite? Also, how long will it last?
It is just now starting up. We're starting to catch a few on a Ned. It will get better as these fish get closer to spawn. And that bite generally lasts probably till the middle or the end of June. You can still catch them on a Ned rig. And if you go up into the dirtier water, up into the rivers where it's a little bit shallower, you can catch them almost year round on a Ned rig.
Okay. Kenneth wants to know, what is Eric's favorite part of Tablerock to fish during the spawn and post spawn?
Well, my favorite part of the lake to fish period is up the White River. Whether it doesn't matter what time of year it is. I like the Shell Knob area pretty much all the way up to Eagle Rock, just because you have everything you could want and everything that Tablerock represents, except for the boat traffic. You don't have near the boat traffic in that area of the lake that we get down by the dam, or even in Kimberling City, where you've got the bigger marinas. So it's a little bit quieter area of the lake, but you've got any type of cover, anything you'd want to fish, including the dirty water that comes out of the Kings River. You can go up and fish that as well.
Okay, great. I guess another question I have for you is, well, Jay, actually, let me hit this up for Jay here real quick. He says, well, that's not applying to you. My bad. So the next question I had is, so if somebody was to go down there right now and, put it on Tablerock, what are some of the things that they need to have tied on?
I would still have a swim bait tied on. Smaller, like a Kitech, either 2.8 or 3.3. That's that's been our most versatile bait all spring. We're catching them right now, working it on the bottom, a technique we call scrubbing, where you throw it and just let it sink to the bottom and just keep it moving along the bottom. I would have that tied on. I would have a spinnerbait tied on. The water's warming up enough. We're getting enough wind and enough dirty water that the spinnerbait bite's starting to turn on. We're still catching them on a rock crawler. So rock crawler is a good option. And then anytime you go to Tablerock, you should have a jig tied on.
Okay. Okay. Good. You guys throw a grub anymore down there? Swim a grub?
Swim bait's really taken over from the grub. We were talking about about 3 or 4 of the guides and I were talking about it. I mean, we still all have them in our boats, but I probably haven't bought grubs in 5 years. You know, I've still got them, but and I was going to say, probably if somebody went out with a grub right now, a 3-inch Kalin's or Yamamoto milky salt and pepper grub, they would probably dominate anything that's happening because these fish have seen nothing but swim baits for the last 4 or 5 years. So we just we're I don't know, the swim bait kind of took over and we've never gone back to the grub. So I don't know I'm sure you could catch them on it. Absolutely.
Same thing happened at Mille Lacs. Exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
We get in these trends, and the fishing industry are masters at marketing, you know, new baits and stuff. And we just forget about the old stuff, but it works just as good.
Oh, absolutely. Better. Sure. Probably, because the fish aren't accustomed to seeing it. You know, fish they're not real smart. We give them too much credit for being really smart, but they do get conditioned. And, you know, if they see the same bait over and over and over again, something that's a little bit different, you know, it's like when the Whopper Plopper came out, there was nothing else like it. So it was an amazing bait for a year. So bringing back a grub or something like that, probably not a bad idea. Right.
So is the Alabama rig bite still going, or is that starting to go away?
You can still catch them on it. It's not as dominant as it was before. But yeah, you can certainly still catch fish on an Alabama rig. As the water warms up, it tends to fade away for us. And the fish, our Alabama rig bite's a little bit different than areas like Lake of the Ozarks where guys are throwing it shallow. For the most part, we're catching fish 25 to even 70 foot of water. And, you know, we're catching fish that are a lot deeper than most guys really target fish with an Alabama rig.
Jeez. Yeah, that's
so as these fish move shallower, you know, it's not as effective for us.
Mm-hmm. And what about the rock crawler / wigglewort bite? Is that going on now, or
it's still going on? It's still going on. Yeah, it will start to fade as the water warms up. But it'll transition. You'll go from a rock crawler wigglewort to more of a square bill bite. You can always, it'll change up to a square bill bite, especially. There's a deal that usually happens on Tablerock for about 2 to 3 weeks post spawn, especially when you start to see the bluegill move to the beds, where we catch them on a rather large square bill, not the monster 6-cent square bill, but like the old I got 3.5s, the bigger ones. We would, and in a bluegill pattern, fishing around where the bluegill will spawn, and it lasts for just before till just after that bluegill spawn, and that's usually when that's happening. The wigglewort rock crawler bite starts to go away.
Okay, that's good to know. So I guess we'll let you go, Eric. I just want to pull you in here for a little bit. Really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Sure.
So how can the viewers find
you, man?
If they want to book a trip or something?
You can go to my website, focusfishing.com. Get a hold of me there. Or if you want to check out my other website, tablerockfishingintel.com, there's there's a ton of information about Tablerock in particular. It's a subscription-based website, but there's a lot of free information on there as well. We put daily reports, weekly reports, all that stuff on there. But either way, you can get a hold of me through both of those.
Okay, sounds good. Well, good luck out there on the water. Are you going to be fishing the BFL coming up?
I am not. Nope. I've got too many irons in the fire to fish too many tournaments anymore. I just fish Anglers in Action with a buddy of mine, and that's about it. And then jump into some charity stuff. That's really all I do anymore.
Okay. Well, good luck out there in the water, and appreciate you coming on.
Yep. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Have a great guiding season, man.
Thanks.
Okay. See you, buddy.
See ya.
Yep.
All right. That was nice. So it sounds like it's still a little bit slow out there at Tablerock, but it's only going to get better.
He was good. I didn't want to jump in too much. With 3 of us on there, there's a little bit of a delay on my end. So I didn't want to say too much because it kind of didn't flow real well.
Yeah, it's hard to get the right timing down on everything with 3. That's the first time I think I've done 3, or that we've had 3 people on here at one time. So it's interesting. Man, Dennis, I just saw your question about what is Eric's favorite topwater bait. I would have to say the Whopper
Sounds
Plopper.
like Whopper Ploppers. Yeah.
I'm sure Spook's probably in there. All that good stuff. That's a good question. Well, I think Eric's gonna come back maybe every other week, maybe once a month, something like that. We haven't kind of finalized that, but I would like to get him on every once in a while just to touch base with him and stuff, because he's, those guides are out there every day, pretty much. So they've got it's super current information, and he's probably guiding today. So what he's bringing on here is real time practically. Let me see if I missed any comments here. There's a lot of stuff. I was trying to pull down to the bottom, so if anybody had any questions for Eric while he was on here, could touch base on that. Okay, let's see. Oh, here we go. Here's a question. Can anyone recommend a bass guide on Kinkaid, please? Report from Lake Fork. Oh, a rig on secondary points, 10 feet of water clearing up, hard to see the beds, temperatures 58 to 60. Wow, I'm surprised that it's not warmer than that down in Fork. That's interesting. As far anybody that guides on Kinkaid right now for bass?
I was thinking about that as you were reading that. There is a gentleman, and I can't think of his name right now. But what I can do, I'll find out, and I can put a name as a reference, like on the comments in the after this video posts or whatever, and then he can double check that. There is a guy, I can't think of his name right now though.
Okay, good deal. We'll get back with you on that whenever we figure it out. Bass RX says, okay, shout out to you both for helping me land some nice fish last Saturday at Cedar. Appreciate the tips. Yeah, he caught some fish on the big spinnerbait, the Thunder Thumper. So
excellent.
That good. Yeah, I think he caught his PB too. Pretty sure he caught his PB.
But when they're biting that thing, that's a blast.
Oh yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
Kobe Baker says, what did you place in that Angler's Choice tournament, Ron?
Oh, we didn't do didn't do well at all. We caught a limit of fish, but we only had a little less than 8 pounds. I don't remember exactly, but we were way down in the middle of the pack. So kudos to those who did well. It wasn't our day.
Yeah, Andy says the Fritzside 5 Junior put 2 in the kayak Saturday. I didn't even know there was a Fritzside Junior until somebody, I think we were talking about it on the stream a couple of weeks ago, and somebody pointed it out. They've got the 5, the 7, the 9, and they got the 5 biggin, and then they got the Junior. So they've really expanded that crankbait line. Let's see.
That's good. It's a good bait.
It is a good bait. It's the thing I like about it a lot, and of course this can get you in trouble, but it's got that really slow rise. And when you're
that's what I was just getting ready to say.
Yeah, when you hit something and you just let it ride, especially in cold water, because those fish are kind of sluggish, but you pop something and you stop it, it just kind of stays in the fish's face right there, which is really, really nice.
And you and I have talked, it wouldn't take a whole lot of work to make one actually suspend. You could tinker with that pretty easily and make it suspend.
Yeah, I was listening to Terry Scroggins. He was on I think he was on Bash University today, and he was talking about how he can get a 5XD down to like 30 plus feet. And what he does is he drills a hole in it and puts, I think he said 3 milliliters of water. It's a real specific amount, but that's all that it takes to get it to sink slow. And then he puts JB Weld on there and epoxy and covers it back up. And that's kind of a little trick that he was talking about. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Very cool.
So we got Matt from 3 Pound Fishing in the queue over there. Let me just make sure that we clear out all these questions before we pull him in. And Matt is a guide over there on Lake of Egypt. I actually saw Matt out there yesterday when I was fishing. I waved to him, but he was focused on that next brush pile he was running to. I don't think he saw me. I'm not sure. He's hard to miss though with that Ozark Rods boat. So let's go ahead and pull Matt in and see what he's up to. He's going to give us a crappie fishing report. So
what's up?
What's up, man?
How are you doing, man?
We are doing great. We got your neighbor on here, Ron.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Going on, buddy.
So, yeah, I had my first guide trip, out there yesterday. I had a couple guys in the boat with me, and we saw you whizzing around the lake there in your Ozark Rods wrapped boat.
Yeah, so, we need to get rid of the Ozark wrap. I was actually fishing with Blake Jackson today, and we had that conversation. So it's hard to miss, isn't it? So
it's pretty obvious. Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna need to get rid of that. I actually called a wrap guy today about it. So we're gonna move on at some point. But I like the wrap during tournament days. So there you go.
You need 2 boats, man.
Yep. Talk to Mama. You have to talk to Mama.
I got a buddy of mine, Craig Hipsher, down in Kentucky Lake. He's a guide down there, and he said the same thing. He can't go anywhere with that wrap boat. People were stealing his holes, and he finally just got rid of it altogether.
Yeah. So, Ron, you're a big bass fisherman out there at Egypt, or tell me what you're.
Yeah, I fished the tournaments here, and then until May, and then I guide up on Mille Lacs in Minnesota in the summer.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Wow, so
sweet.
And then I winter down here, and I enjoy that winter series that Lonnie Bolin, I think, puts it on, and Eric Niswanger and those guys, and I really enjoy the winter fishing out here on Egypt, even with the plant.
Yeah.
Partially shut down.
You guys probably already talked about it, but how did it affect the bass in the wintertime? It
changed the timing. The winter bite, so to speak, or fall bite, started normally, but it kind of wrapped up about mid-December, I would say. It really kind of petered out, which normally would have kept going throughout the winter. But as you know, we had all that goofy cold weather on top of it. And so many of those fish literally pulled beyond the buoy line. And then a lot of the fish, the back 2/3 of the lake, just went to a old standard winter pattern like you'd have on any other non-power plant lake.
Right.
And actually, there was about mid-December, the guys that were doing well in the tournaments abandoned the warm water and went and fished traditionally in the cold water and caught better fish doing that than continuing to chase the shad-based fish up front. So that change happened a lot earlier than what it used to. I mean, the fish are still there. You just have to got to tackle it a little different.
We noticed that our fish definitely didn't go as shallow. I mean, that's kind of probably obvious for the cooler water, but we used to fish, those crappie up at 3-4 foot. And I mean, we were constantly fishing at 10 and 12. I don't think I ever fished any shallower than that. And definitely spookier, fidgety. They moved around a lot quicker. We still had great days on the guides, but we never had that one day where it was like every cast. And so,
right.
I'm really hoping they bring the power plant back. So,
Yeah,
It'd be nice.
I don't.
Everybody is.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but
Right.
I'm still seeing, while I'm bass fishing, I'm still seeing pods of crappie swimming around out where I wouldn't think they would still be. Is that fishing pressure, or what? What are they doing?
You see some singles out there, or you're actually seeing schools?
I've seen some groups of crappie, not as big as you see in the winter, but groups of 10 or 15 or 20. They'll be vertically stacked just out in the middle of a pocket.
Yeah, it's interesting because being in pre-spawn, and I've fished I don't even want to say this out loud, but I've fished at least the last 6 days in a row out there, and you can catch them doing just about everything right now in pre-spawn. In fact, today I caught them in schools on structure, and we didn't catch them shallow, but we have the last week. But they are still in schools. And even last year when the power plant was on, they still were at schools at this temperature on Lake of Egypt. I mean, you could catch them in the main rec area doing their thing. They might be smaller schools, like you said, but right now, I'm not saying it's easy fishing, because it's not easy fishing. And I think most people would say that it's not easy fishing, but you can catch them doing any type of technique that you'd want to on Egypt right now.
Okay. So are you finding them in their, I guess they're in their pre-spawn areas right now?
Yeah, they're outside of their spawn areas. And, with this cold snap that we just had, they did move out. You're back.
He's back.
It's been tough. But you just have to keep looking. I mean, every morning I'm going out there and I'm looking. That's my goal, and to find out where they're at. And definitely this cold snap that we just had pushed them out back on the structure. For me personally, it's been swim baits, plastics. I've got actually some examples here that I've been using. It's called a Fire and Ice from Jinko Fishing. That's been working for me, but I honestly don't know if it matters in regards to the color. They seem to be reacting to almost about everything, but this is the guy I've been using as of late. They offered in a bunch of stuff like curly fry and even a mermaid right here, but
pull some of those out. Pull some of those out if you don't mind. Let us look at them.
Want to see what they look like? All right. So the tickle fry is a paddle tail, and you can see.
Oh.
And I don't know if I've got several different styles of paddle tails here. Here's another one, bigger tail.
Mm-hmm.
This is the tickle fry. It's just the one I prefer. That's the Fire and Ice has been the color I've been using, but Egypt's notorious for natural colors too. So there's your curly fry.
Yeah.
And then a mermaid is, but again, I don't know if it really matters. I think it might have a lot more to do with how you're presenting it. If you're putting it right on their nose, I've noticed that some days they don't want a moving bait, which is typical crappie fishing. You're going to decide whether or not you want it moving or if you want it still.
Yeah. So that mermaid's, that's something that you're dropping on them, or are you casting that too?
Yeah. I mean, actually the beauty of the mermaid and the tickle fry is that it's a droppable bait. So it looks nice vertically, and then you could also swim it and it'll have some action on it.
Okay.
So that's what I love about the tickle fry. So that right there is, I fish this both ways. It doesn't really matter.
That looks like it has a ton of action.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, but the fishing's funny. I mean, a lot of people the cold front kind of changed it up, kicked them back a little bit, but right now you can just do about everything. And I found 2 schools today, and I probably caught 4 fish off of them. And just for a short while before, because I was actually pre-fishing before Blake came in, and I caught them every way you could imagine right now. So it's kind of a little confusing for crappie fishing, I guess, but fun all the same. I love it because I experience different. I mean, I go to the different new parts of the lake that I haven't experienced in a while, and I see what's going on. So,
yeah, when you got so many different ways to catch them, it's hard to focus on one certain way.
It's fun.
It is fun.
It's fun. So let me ask you guys this. So last weekend I had 2 guide trips, and there was a bunch of bass anglers out there. I mean, there was 180 boats on Saturday. Good night.
It was nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
here's what happened. It was nuts. It was dangerous. We had an angler's choice tournament on Saturday, and then scheduled at the same time at the same boat ramp was a huge high school tournament. You probably saw a lot of boats with 3 people in it.
Yes.
That was the, like the parent, guardian, whatever, coach.
Right.
And we were both scheduled out of Pyramid, both taking off at 6:30. And I'll just say it was interesting. And it was, I think there was a mistake in scheduling somewhere, but the net result was we held back and let the kids go out first. Angler's Choice did. So I was proud of Angler's Choice for doing that for the kids. And then we took off right after them. And then the good thing was they weighed in at 2:00 and we didn't weigh in until 3. So that helped. But you're right. It was too many boats on the lake, and it couldn't have been a good experience for the kids. And then the fish bit a little bit. But yeah, it was crazy. It was
So
crazy. I concur.
The wind was up a little bit on Saturday, but even more so on Sunday. So what were the tournaments on Sunday that they had? Because there was quite a few boats then as well.
Sunday, I'm not aware of any tournaments other than a club fish off. So Sunday, I don't know. I'm not sure what that was.
I'm just verifying my schedule if I've got it back. If I'm talking Friday and Saturday.
Now, the week before that, there was a Illini team trail, which that could have been it. The week prior. The week prior.
Well, there was
talking about.
So my deal on Sunday was kind of funny. Well, it wasn't funny, but it was, we had like a 15, 20 mile an hour wind on that day. And it was, that knocks off half the lake right away in terms of piles and such.
Sure.
And then there was a decent sized bass tournament that day. So of course the bass anglers immediately most of them went straight to the no wind coves, which is exactly where I wanted to go. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I cut that guy trip short actually. So I was like, there was nowhere to go. But I think it's great because we experience this every spring with bass fishing. I mean, there's just a lot of tournaments, plain and simple. There just is. It's your season, so it's
Well, it's not. It's everybody's lake, and I do, and I'm fishing the tournament, so I can't really say too much. Otherwise I'd be hypocritical. But I do wish there was a little bit of more communication between the tournaments to kind of spread the pressure out a little bit.
Right.
I think that would be best for all, but it is what it is. And and I think the Sunday you're talking about must have been the week before on the Illini. There was an Illini team trail that came down, and there was a tournament the weekend before what I was talking about on Sunday.
Yeah, well, that lake's already small, and when you get that many boats, what'd you say, Ron? There was probably 200 something boats out there that day, that Saturday.
Oh yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. Just between Angler's Choice had over 60 boats, and the high school tournament had over 60 boats, and we're all going out of Pyramid. And then there was a club fish off from Kankakee out of Max. This was all that Saturday. Wow. And it was busy.
So
it was busy.
Is there enough parking over at Pyramid for that many boats?
Not really. I mean, they park all the way up the road, all the way out to the power plant road. And they park down that other road that cuts across towards Market. So they park everywhere. It's just it's just a zoo.
It's a madhouse. Gary says there's 4 tournaments on Saturday. I don't know if he means this Saturday or if that was last Saturday. But
so in the event that you are participating, what was the winning weight?
On ours, the one I was in, I think 15 pounds won it. I think 15 pounds and then 2 14-pound strings were top 3, which is about typical.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Kobe says there were no parking spots on Egypt the day of the Angler's Choice tourneys. Vehicles backed up to the road and all throughout the campground. I've seen it like that. It's crazy. You can only park so many boats. So Matt, you've been fishing a lot of tournaments. We were talking about bass tournaments. Let's talk about some crappie tournaments. You've been kind of all over the place. I've been sampling your channel here and there, and you're just like here, and then you're there, and then you're here, and then you're there. So how's that going?
So I'm running the Crappie Masters Trail and which was Darbone, which was exciting. Have you guys ever fished Darbone before? It's a different lake. They have what are called, this was my first experience. I'm sure you guys know about it, but there's boat lanes. So they actually have a right and a left marked for the lane. And on Darbone, they're very narrow. If you don't stay within a lane, you literally risk your motor being ripped off your boat. So you're always aware of the red and the green. So that was interesting. We did very well there. And then I went to Grenada for the Crappie Masters there. And Grenada is the home of the 3-pound fish. I mean, that's an experience. I just got back from Alabama for the ACT National Championship, and I didn't fare too well there. I can tell you that that was not a good experience. I don't know how many rivers you fish, but I mean, I know we got the Ohio, and I know everybody goes to Kentucky, Tennessee River, and all that stuff. But it wasn't the best experience I've ever had. So,
what was it? Was it sketchy to run around, or what was it? Just about fishing?
Well, first I made it. It's a 3-day event. I only made it to day 2. But with that said, just running the river, we had a 9-foot change of water level while I was there. And so if you can imagine one day waking up, the next day it's 5 feet higher. That's what I was experiencing at the Alabama River. And because of that, you pick up all the debris on the shoreline. So we're running 15 miles down the river, and we're having to move in, everything that's floating down the river, including a cow. I saw a cow floating in the river. And so, yeah, I'd like to forget Alabama River, but I'm back for a while. Next events will be Kentucky Lake, back to Grenada, and then Truman, and then the national champion is back down at Darbone. So those are the events. I canceled some events because of my Alabama River experience. I decided I wasn't going to fish the Ouachita down in Louisiana, and I'm not fond of rivers. I just, I don't have the boat. My boat's not that big, right? So it's a 115. These guys are flooring with 250s and 300s, and they're rolling, way away. And for me, it just takes all day to get there. And so,
yeah, you have a lot more limited range. Yeah, I've been in situations where there's that floating debris, and it's super sketchy. I mean, I fished out on the Mississippi River, and you'll have like a whole tree floating by. It's just you can't relax. Basically, you can't relax.
Yeah, you might only see the little limb
pop up by the river when you're running.
Yes. So I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't. So anyway, it's been great, having a great time, and I love competing. My goal is always just to get to the national championships and then compete there as hard as I possibly can. I didn't do well at Alabama River, but that's okay. It's a learning experience. So
I know Blake is heavily involved in the Crappie Masters now. I talked to his dad the other day, so that's good for Ozark rods and yards. That's a cool
deal. It's funny because I joined Ozark Rods, and I didn't know they had any intention on buying anything. And they bought the Crappie Masters. So there's 2 major trails in crappie fishing. That's American Crappie Trail and Crappie Masters, and they own that one now. And so we did a outing today where I kind of interviewed Blake and kind of gave everybody kind of insight on who he was, and we're just trying to spread the word that he's young, but he's going to bring a lot of energy and new ideas to the sport. And that's what crappie fishing needs. Now, crappie fishing is growing. LiveScope's done incredible things for us. So I think with the youth and the technology, we're going to take it to the next level, certainly at the Crappie Masters.
Okay.
Good.
Cool. I mean, there's a lot of room to grow, like you
Excellent.
said. A lot of room to grow.
Yeah. We aspire to be like the bass tournaments. We need 120 boats.
Yeah. It's growing. It's getting there.
We still only
not
get
on
like
Egypt.
15.
That's what we need. We need 4 bass tournaments and 2 crappie tournaments on Egypt one day.
No.
Can you imagine? It'd fish like a little 2-acre farm pond.
Where do they
It
actually?
already does.
Yeah.
Where do they list all the tournaments that are going on in an event? So when you're bass fishing, do you guys know that there's another event coming? Are going to be on that same day? Like where would somebody go to find out what's happening on that lake that weekend?
For Pyramid does a good job of listing the tournaments that are going out of Pyramid, which is where most of them go out of. And you can call Pyramid and they will tell you what tournaments are going out of there that particular weekend. And Max, I don't believe that there's not as many that go out of Max, but there are some. And I'm sure you could call there and find out. The other thing you can do, Angler's Choice and Illini Team Trailer, the 2 big ones that go out here at Egypt. You can just go on their website and see when they're scheduled to be here. And good thing is Angler's Choice and Illini Team Trail communicate, and they don't. There might be one Saturday and one Sunday, but I've never seen them on the same day. A lot of the same guys fish both trails.
Gotcha.
But as far as all the multitude of club fish offs and stuff, I mean, that's just, you don't know till you get down there at the ramp and there's a 20 boat fish off from a club in Chicago here. And that stuff you just don't know because it's not on any schedule. And
Todd Phelps wants to know, where can he get the 3-pound Ozark rods?
Unfortunately, we've been sold out for a while. I think a lot of people are having problems getting new equipment in. So the 3-pound fishing rods will be back in 3rd week of April. We've been told. I can tell you that they were supposed to be in probably 2 weeks ago as well. So we're officially saying the 3rd week of April is the 3-pound fishing rods will be back in, and we're actually going to add a 15-footer and a 7-footer. So we've got some exciting stuff happening, but we are waiting on shipments. We've been waiting for a while on the 3-pound fishing rods. It's been great that they sold out, but at the same time, we don't have anything. So
yeah,
this
COVID stuff has really made a shortage in all different avenues out there. I don't think that 15-foot rod would fit in your rod locker, Ron, even in your Vexus. Is that a 4-piece rod?
Probably not.
It's a big one. So have you been out, Matt? Have you been out on any other lakes, like locally?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I haven't. I'd love to share information on Kinkaid crab and all those other places, but I just haven't. I just know what the water temperature at Egypt is. What it can go all the way up to 60 right now if we get a good sun shining. But at the end of the day, it's roughly around 51, 52. That's where it's sitting. It sat there all day today, and I'm sure the other lakes are very similar. So,
okay,
yeah.
My neighbor went to Cedar. He's been to Cedar twice in the last week, and he said he's been catching some big crappie, and he's been catching some big bass. You know, those guys that they're dropping those jigs around the grass. They seem like they hook up with a lot more 5-pounders than I do. It's not fair. They're not even fishing for them, but something about that little crappie jig just sitting there in front of a big bass's face. It works. Mario says, is there any talk about turning over the lake to the landowners, taking liability away from the power company? You guys heard anything about that?
Go ahead, Ron.
I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't heard a whole lot. That's you hear rumors, but I haven't heard anything that I would repeat. I really haven't heard anything official.
nothing here either.
Okay. Geez, they already act like they own the lake anyway. You get 10 feet away from my docks.
I guess the fear is that what the power plant will sell itself off eventually, or it'll be gone completely. And then who owns the shoreline agreements that everybody has signed? And, but I have faith that they're going to turn it back on. So, have you noticed this run? Have you guys noticed that they haven't ran the small part lately? I mean, they have at least they didn't run it today when I was there. They didn't run it yesterday. I've noticed the last 3 days I haven't seen it running at all, which does bother me a little bit.
But the trucks were running today though. There was a bunch of trucks in and out. I don't know what they're doing. Gabe came over here yesterday and I told him that the plant hadn't been on as far as I could tell. So I'm not sure what they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a sad deal. I was talking to the guys that I was out there in the lake with yesterday, and I was explaining to them how they had cut the production down, to basically, I guess, 40%. And they were really surprised. They were sad to hear that because they had been fishing for crappie on Egypt since like the 80s, but they hadn't really fished for bass, which is the reason that they got in contact with me. And just like everybody else, they hated to hear that, the power plant lake was reducing their power production. And, they were surprised that the lake had been froze up too. They couldn't hardly believe that. And I said, yeah, so was everybody else around here. It's not something many people have seen.
Boy, it froze, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did.
Yeah.
So Matt, if anybody wants to get a hold of you to do a guide trip, how can they look you up?
3poundfishing.com. Just check me out, or you can 3poundfishing@gmail.com. So if you want to email me, but I've got some available dates in May still. So I love doing it. So brush pile fishing at its finest
with live scope.
So yeah, the guide trips start tomorrow. It's I get a long string of them. So, but I love doing it. And this time's funny though, because we can just do about everything, and that's what we'll do tomorrow. But when they're up shallow, that's fun. We just throw a float right next to the weed edge and go to town. So
cool. Yeah, and I can attest. Matt took me out a while back. It's been a while now, but we had a good day. Even though the fishing was tough, we were on the bluegill for sure. But it's cool to see that live scope and see those little fish swimming around the brush pile. It's kind of eye opening. I had fun.
So tell me about your guide service. So I didn't know you were guiding. So tell me about that.
I'm not, man. I'm not. It was just kind of a one-time deal. I just kind of tried to figure out what it was fun. It was an experience.
Did you like it?
I did. I really enjoyed it. I really did. Once I settled down,
you need to do it.
I'm, if I could get off, if I had weekends off, I have to work on Saturdays. So all I would have on, all I would have open is Sunday, which I guess that's a possibility. I hadn't seriously thought about it, but I did enjoy it. It was fun. I had to get in. You guys, I really appreciate both of you for having done that and seeing how it is. You kind of got to get in a certain mindset to get out there, and you've got to be I've been tournament fishing so much and doing the YouTube videos. So my mindset is to run, find fish and try to make something happen. And I learned from that little trip the other day that it's about kind of relaxing and being in the moment and kind of letting it happen and putting, I really tried to put those guys in areas that they could fish that was out of the wind. Not necessarily the places where I thought we could catch the most aggressive fishes, but places that we could relax and have a good time and have a good day, if that makes sense.
Right.
So
Sure.
I had to get the right mindset first. Yeah. It took me about an hour or so to get out of my run and gun bass fishing mindset. And once I relaxed, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, well, we're going to let you go, Matt. I appreciate you jumping on here. We got Mike's in the queue over there.
Thank you, man.
Bring him in a little bit.
Hey, nice talking to you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Matt. And go check out Matt if you want to get on some crappie.
All right, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good times. Yeah, Matt's a great dude. Like I said earlier, he took me out for a couple hours, actually about a half a day, and great person, man. We had a good time. He knows how to find those fish, and it's a brush pile fishing deal.
If anyone can put you on the crappie, he's one of the guys on the lake that can definitely put you on some crappie for sure.
Yeah, good time. So we got one more guest tonight, guys. I kind of booked or kind of got a hold of a couple different people to see how this would work out. And if I missed any of your questions, which I think I did most likely, post them again, and I will definitely put them up here, because I was trying to get down to some of the Mac questions while he was on here. But we've got Mike Russell, and Mike is a painter. He's got a little company called Bag 5 Baits. Pretty good painter out there. He's from Kentucky Lake, and he is going to give us a Kentucky Lake report. So we're going to go ahead and pull Mike in here and pull this over here. If you got any questions for Mike, get them in here. If you got any Kentucky Lake questions, he lives right there on the lake. What's up, brother? How are you?
Sitting here sanding baits.
I was watching you.
I'm sitting here. I got a deadline to meet tomorrow, and it's like I'll be here till 1, 2, 3 in the morning.
Jeez.
Oh my!
Everybody gets all these new baits. It was nice to hear crappie talk, though. I had in my shop for 3 days had Wally Marshall, and you want to talk about a funny guy to listen to? Wally's got some stories. He's been around a few. I didn't know the guy was a DJ back in the day. If you ever meet Wally, you're like, yeah. You look at him, you're like, a DJ? Are you
like
serious?
A dance party DJ?
Yeah.
Wow.
And ask him about when he got shot. When he was a DJ. Yeah, some guy hit. Now this is what he told me. Okay, some guy took and they got into it, and he told me that there was a girl involved, and 2 guys was kind of fighting over a girl, and the one guy left, went to his car to get a gun, and he was walking back in. Somebody screaming, "He's got a gun!" So they all ran out of the place. Wally had ran out with them, and he forgot he left something in, and he turned around and went to go back in, and the guy stepped out the door with the gun. He said he couldn't think anything else to do, so he cold cocked him, knocked him out right there. But as the guy went down, he fired a shot, and he missed his jewels, had a hole in his jeans, missed his jewels by like 3 inches.
Oh
my shop
God.
has got so many stories. These guys come here, and when you're working 16, 18-hour days with them, you wouldn't believe it. I do want to say for you guys, keep and I'm not trying to bring anything down, but keep guys like David Fritz, who just had he had a procedure done on his heart. He still hasn't pulled out, but he's trying to get his pulse rate down to below like 160. He's been cranking along pretty good. I heard about that today, and Saturday at the BFL, Danny Moorhead got the info that his mom got rushed to the hospital, and Sunday his mother passed away. And so keep those guys in your prayers. So they're both really good guys. They really are. So, but anyway, no, that I've painted for guys, on the crappie, on the crappie side. A lot of these guys that are, what do they call them? They're pullers. They run that boat at 1.3 or 1.7 mile an hour, and they troll around, dragging these some of the best crankbaits. The guys love like a Bandit 200, Bandit 300s. Personally, I think the new, it ain't new, it's a couple years old now, but that Berkeley Dredger gets down a little bit deeper, but they've got a size 8 and 10, and the size 8 will hit 11 foot. And this thing is, it's tiny, but to be able to get down to 11 foot, to me, it makes it just a stellar crappie, crappie bait.
Yeah.
So, but there again, you got to have, they got, whenever I had Wally here, they got all kinds of things like the electric chicken, and they got all kinds of weird names for them.
I love the electric chicken. That's one of my go-to. That's one of my go-to.
Well, I got a rumor down at one of the Tennessee chains down in Alabama, they were catching them on crappie, the crappie stuff. Most guys that know me know that I like a finesse approach, but I like a power finesse. I like a smaller crankbait. I like, stuff like that to go put. That's why I named Bag 5. It's put 5 fish in the boat. and I like to go through and get my 5. And sometimes you get the big one up front, sometimes you don't. I hate them days whenever you catch a 5-pounder right off the bat, and then you can't find 4 more to go with it.
Yeah,
to go with it. Yeah.
Here, I got a question for you guys. Do you guys have any kind of, when you're in a tournament mode or anything like that, do you have any superstitions? Be honest. I'll tell you mine.
Yeah, I can tell you the first cast has to be a bad cast. Throw it off the side of the boat or something. Don't make a good cast first cast. You don't want to catch fish first cast.
Come on, Gabe.
Why don't you go, Mike? I'm thinking. I don't know that I got any that stand right out. I know I have to. I got my little routines in the morning. I have to do things.
You got to stand on your left foot to pee.
Pretty much.
Your hair to the right.
Yeah.
Yes. Superstition in my boat is you don't say the word limit.
Limit. Okay.
You don't say, hey, we got to get a limit. Every time and I'm telling you, it has came back to haunt us. I don't know if my buddy would, I told him to watch the thing. My fishing partners will tell you, every time you say the word limit, we'll call it the L word, but every time you say limit, you end up with 4. Every time. And you don't, and then I follow that up. You don't say cull either until you cull.
Yeah. I don't even put cull tags on my fish because that's assuming that I'm going to need to cull. So it's kind of the same thing, I tell you what, here's something that I don't say. And that is, oh, looks like the rain stopped.
Well, I'll tell you, I got a lucky hat. You guys go, I got a lucky hat. I have a hat that I wear. Well, and you know what? Unless I have caught fish in that hat, it won't be on my head in a tournament.
You ever kissed a fish?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. She told me she was old enough, but I didn't think she told me she was a keeper, but
right.
I have kissed a fish, and that was peer pressure. It's like kiss it. It's like no. But yeah, that's one of the things that I think that stuff's interesting to hear guys that, like you with a cull tag. I think it's there's little stuff that I used to be, don't put, how whenever you first in the morning, as soon as you stop the boat, you come off pad, I used to not pull the net out. Yeah. Because of the same thing with you with the cull tags. I didn't want to believe that, hey, I may not, I pull it out, it's bad luck. There's no such thing as bad luck. It's just misfortunes. But now I've got a way, whenever I stop the boat and we're in a team event, I lay the net right over the windshield and I aim the handle back towards the back of the boat, off to the driver's side gunnel wall. That way, if I need to net a fish, I can grab it by the top, pull it off. They can grab it, come forward. And I don't have to worry about hanging up on all the 7,000 lures that are laying in the bottom of my boat.
Yeah.
Hey, my boat's a tool. I go to work.
Yeah.
Do what?
I used to always have a can of Viennese sausages at some point in the day. That was my good luck charm. I had to eat a can of Viennese sausages.
What about a banana?
I don't know where that came from.
The banana.
What's the deal with the banana?
It's actually somebody should be able to take and tell us. And there you go. One of the guys on there, Randy Sons. He ain't kidding. Don't say the L word. But yeah, they took the banana goes way back when, and I think somebody can tell us what that is. But it was something about a banana, and then I used to keep like 37 cents in the floor of my boat. I won a tournament, had 37 cents, and I left it there. Right now, it's that same 37 cents has been laying in the floor of my boat for about 7 years.
See, now you're as we speak, I'm slowly thinking of things. This is interesting because, okay, check this out. I got a penny. There's a penny in the bottom of my boat somewhere, and it came out of my old boat. Before I sold it, I took that penny, set it on my workbench, and I was without a boat for a little bit. when I got the boat all put back together, the carpet in, I took that penny and I threw it back in my new boat. So that, I don't know if you call that superstition or just being comfortable. Basically, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. So that penny is in my boat somewhere.
It's just weird as some of the
I
little
used to have
things
an
we
old
do.
keychain I used to keep up front of the boat.
An old keychain.
Well, see, here's the thing. Well, like with the hats, we used to fish whenever we go. It'd be like me saying, "Hey, Gabe, why don't we go fishing tonight on Kentucky Lake?" And you come down, it's like, we're gonna fish for lids. My lucky hat against your lucky hat. I've got a handful of, and at the end of it, there's a Sharpie involved. You got to sign your lucky hat, and if you lose, you got to hand it over to me. Now, you can't stop at Quick Trip on your way in and pick you up a trucker's hat, and come out. It's got to be a hat that you don't want to lose. You got to put something on the line. And I got that off the old that movie Biker Boys. They used to race for helmets. Well, I've got a closet full of hats that's got people's signatures on it, and I lost one. It was an old Daiwa hat. It was air conditioning because I'd washed it so many times. It had holes in it, but that was my lucky hat. I'm not gonna lie, I lost that hat, and I literally felt like I lost my mojo for about 3 months. I could not seem to catch fish. I couldn't do it. I lost my mojo when I lost my hat. And yeah, it was rough. But
did you see this from Kevin? He says the bananas used to explode in boats way back. So ships full of bananas were deadly cargo way back in the day. So maybe that sounds legitimate to me. I mean, I'm going with that right now until I figure something else out.
In a bass boat, I'd be afraid I'd step on it.
Yeah. And then Bass RX says he did a guide trip with Jay Zapp years ago on Cedar, and he enjoyed a banana while we were yanking in giant crappie. So it's good luck and bad luck. It just depends on who it is. You
can ignore it and drive on, but you say the L word in my boat, we're gonna tussle. It's just something about saying limit, and everybody that's been around me knows that. So, but yeah, that's one of the things that, I was just kind of curious about. I was thinking about, I was going to ask you guys, and there's a lot of people, they have little idiosyncrasies, but just do me a favor. Try not saying limit until you got one, and just start noticing. And if your partner says it, just notice and see if you get that fifth one.
I'm not even going to try it. I'm not even going to bring
that. I'm telling you, don't bring that down on me, Ricky Bobby.
I'll say we got a limit when we got a limit.
When you got a limit, I'm telling. Don't say call until you call. I mean, like I said, one of my partners, he commented on there, Randy Sons, and Randy will tell you more. We had weighed in 4 fish, and after we said the limit word and the L word, we'd weighed in 4 fish so many times it was ridiculous. And we got to the point, it's like, I'm not saying limit till I got a limit. That's like getting a bite, and you know how you get them where they just peck at it? You'll get, like, I call it the machine gun hit. They'll hit it real quick. I'm sorry, I'm a sound effects guy. That, whenever I took and would get that, and then you get to the point, you're like, forget it, I'm going to let them swallow it. They're going to swallow it. And then you catch a fish, and it's a warmouth. It's about 8 inches long. Or you go expose hooks on a tube. So, but yeah, like I said,
I'm with Phil. He says he's not a good enough fisherman. He'll take the first fish on the first cast every day.
I do too. I've seen that a bunch of times, and I've seen guys get haunted by it. It's the thing is that you got to think about it. If you think about it all day long, then you're going to wind up coming in, and having something weighing over your head. I don't necessarily, my hat thing, I'm telling you, it was real. I'm about to cry. I'm sitting there thinking about my Daiwa hat and that, and I'm just kidding, but it is something pretty interesting to kind of keep your eye on. Don't go in a tournament unless you got a hat you caught fish in.
Hey,
when smell, you catch a fish, rub the bill of that hat.
That's right.
Rub it in. Don't go in with a new shiny hat.
Yeah, I throw mine in the live well sometimes. just put on recirc, get that good fish smell in there.
You're saying that, and I'm getting ready to. I'm replacing all the pumps, and I'm getting ready to start fishing the Illini, and I'm putting all new aerators, all new bilge pumps, and everything in my boat. I'm getting ready to put that in there. So it's going to be it'll be a little tussle, but I like fishing a lot of the lakes on the Illini, even though they are tough. But I just be honest with you, I think that makes you a better fisherman. You know, I can go out on Kentucky Lake and catch fish. I know enough, spots that I can go out there and do it, and I like it. You know, I've competed and done decently, but I kind of enjoy the way I grew up. Used to be fishing, streams and little lakes, and I cut my teeth on Mark Twain Lake up in northern Missouri. First, I remember running from PB2 all the way to the dam in my 16-foot Stratus on Lake of the Ozarks, fishing at 8 at night till 8 in the morning tournament.
Yeah, I don't do those anymore. I've done a couple of
tournament.
Hey, I called my wife, and she got in the top dresser drawer and pulled them out and said, "Here, you can wear them today." It was like, all right, we're going. I had a fish found in the 3 Mile Cove, and it was one of the biggest fish I'd ever had on. And I fished that tournament. I'm going. That was loud. Somebody calling me. I took in.
Oh, I thought you had gremlins in your shop.
Oh God. I took and ran down there, and I didn't fish. I didn't make a cast till I got to the back of this cove, and I got down there, and first cast I hooked her on a little Bomber 2A and in the little baby bass color, and I had a little net, and it came off. It was about 7 pounds.
Dang.
And caught it like on my second or third cast. She was there for me, and my buddy reached as far out as he could with his arm, and he missed that fish by about 6 inches. I was done. Back then I was done. Nowadays, if I lose one that big, I'll just kind of say a few nasty words and kick the deck a few times, and then I'll just go back to work.
You say some nasty words like limit.
And limit, call. Well, there goes our limit. Hey, look at all the guys in some of these tournaments, the Bassmasters and stuff. These guys have been struggling to catch 5 every tournament.
Yep, it's been tough.
There's a lot to it.
Billy says it's the same for duck hunting too. They got their superstitions in duck hunting.
It's just if you do I say a prayer whenever I stop the boat. I bow my head and ask for everybody to be safe, everybody to enjoy what they're doing. And that's one thing. One of my partners, I told him we stopped the first time he fished with me. I said, "Can you take your hat off?" And I don't mean this disrespectfully at all, but I say I want to get the big man in the boat with me and just keep us safe and everything. And I've always seemed to make it back in, and I started off like that. I was just having a conversation earlier talking about, the saying about the 2 wolves, and, depends on which wolf wins that morning. Whenever you get up, you can either have a bad day or a good day. Which wolf are you going to let win?
Mm-hmm.
And you start your day off like that. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to catch them. I tell people, I'll paint you a bait I'll try to get you a couple of bites. If I can get you 2 bites, 3 bites in a tournament extra, you add that up over 5 or 6 tournaments. Look how many fish that may be. That could be the difference between you making
That's
a regional, and you got to have confidence, and if you have confidence in it, then you'll catch more fish, and I can paint you the prettiest bait you ever want to see. In fact, there's going to be some coming out in July. Whenever iCast comes out, there's going to be some very pretty baits, and you guys, that I can go back and we can come back on here and talk about, after they come out. But I've been designing, a bunch of beautiful stuff, but you have to have confidence in it. It could be the prettiest bait in the world. I got a box right behind me that is probably got 300-400 baits that I won't show or let anybody fish with, even though you go, "Oh, those look good." They didn't catch fish. They got tested. They didn't catch fish. You're not going to see them. And they were tested by more than one person. So it could be the prettiest thing ever, but if you don't have confidence in it, I don't want to paint a bait for somebody and you go out, make 4 or 5 casts and say to yourself, I'm not feeling this. I want you to know when you pick up this bait, this is what I want to throw, you know, and then I want you to be smart enough to say, they're not, you know, they're not on a crankbait. You know, they're not on a fast moving bait. You know, I called Menendez earlier today, ask him if he, you know, if he needed anything for the Sabine River. He told me how he was going to fish and what he was thinking. And, you know, he's got everything he needs. I painted a bait that the college tournament, and one of the boys who won from SIU contacted me. I would show you the bait, but I don't want to do that to him. But I painted a bait for him, and they wound up winning the college tournament that they just had out there, the MLF college, and they won a tournament on there. And he had confidence to the point he called me and ordered 5 more of them just to make sure he had them. Mm-hmm. You know, if you got confidence, you're gonna throw that bait right. You're gonna put it in places, and you know you're gonna do it right. On Kentucky Lake right now, to give you the fishing report, I gather up as many as I can from trusted sources. The smallmouth are still biting. Good smallmouth too. I saw a picture of one that was up close to 7 pounds. Wow.
Dang.
Oh yeah. And they are spawning too. They're spawning too. So do your homework on how smallmouth spawn, and you look for them type of areas. The water is muddy. I've heard of 2 different guys that caught 18+ pound sacks in 4 fish, and they're not out fishing. They're going up shallow. So there's a shallow bite. There's also a wood bite. If you see anything with wood on it, good chance you can catch you some fish. The baits has been working. Crankbaits have been working. Some up, you know, but a lot of guys are catching them on jigs. There is still some being caught on a trap. Rumor mill has it that, you know, you may want to back off a little on the red. The red isn't putting out as much as people think they are. Right now, it's past us. It's still going on up north, and it's still going on way down south because their crawdads look like that all the time. But you know, the red bite has kind of slacked off just a little bit on Kentucky Lake. That is, Barkley Lake's fishing well. I love the north end of Barkley. I love Barkley only because it's smaller and it's not as intimidating. I can break it down faster and find multiple spots on Barkley. Kentucky, to me, I mean, it's a monster. 160,000+ acres. It's a monster. And right now, I looked it up a while ago. They average 258,000 today. Wow. On the current flow.
They've kicked it up since. I mean, I was down there over the weekend. It was 200. They've kicked it up a bunch.
The third, they're predicting they had 258 average. It was anywhere from 255 to 259 today. Tomorrow, they got an average outflow. Oh, they got an average outflow tomorrow of 264. And then on the third, they got an average outflow of 269. So they're pulling some water. And the water's still coming up. Today it come up, you know, 5/10, half a foot. Just today. And, you know, you think about how much water that is whenever you got 160,000 acres with 2,200 miles of shoreline, and you got the water coming up 6 inches, yet they're pulling 258,000. The guy, it's muddy. It's a mud hole out on the main river. You can find some clearer water. The guys that are trying to fish tournaments and stuff down here, if you're fishing south of Paris, look for the ones that's got the natural springs in the back of them. You got nice, warm, clear water. We're averaging anywhere from 50, you know, you can see 56 water all the way up to, at 7:30 tonight, I checked it just before I come on, it was 58 degrees. For those of you that fish Kentucky Lake, go and look up Hancock Biological Station. That's Murray State runs at. They have anywhere from 10 to 16 different points that they pull these temperatures from to get their average. It will give you, especially if you want to get super detailed, it'll give you the pH level of the water. It will give you the It'll give you the oxygen levels. It'll give you everything. And if you can start following them and implement that onto your fishing, you actually catch more fish. There's sometimes I can look at it and go, I ain't going fishing. I'm just not, I don't want to go out. The water quality's bad, but we've got enough inflow right now. The oxygen level's up a little. We had some rain. I am so tired of rain around here. I'm about to, start wearing hip waders and walk into my shop. But it's been pretty, it really has been pretty good. The Asian carp, I see somebody asked a question there. The Asian carp has slowed down. One thing you guys have to be familiar with, Asian carp spawn in the current. They like to spawn when there is a certain amount of current. When they're pulling so many cubic foot per second, they will get in the current, and they don't make a bed and lay eggs. They spew them out by the hundreds of thousands, and then the male bass fertilize them. They're like right behind them. Well, it happens during a certain water temperature. When the water temperature reaches, I'm going to give you kind of fictitious numbers, but they're not far off. Let's say that 70,000 cubic foot per minute is a release, so you got that much speed in the current flow, and the water temperature is between 70 to 72. If they are, then they will spawn. Well, we may not like the current being 258, but I love it.
Right.
Let the water temperature come up over their number, because once it gets over it, they're not spawning, and they'll just, we've had a couple of years they haven't spawned. They're doing a lot of fishing for them.
Good.
They're doing a lot of fishing, and I mean, guys are still they're catching fish. Now, is the ledge bite going to be on this year? I don't know. It's taken 22 pounds for the 2 BFLs this month on Kentucky Lake, 22 pounds to win. So second place was 18 pounds on the boater side. It was like 17 pounds on the, you fished that one, Gabe. It was like 17 pounds on the co-angler side. So, I mean, there is fish being caught.
Yep. Yeah, the numbers looked a lot better than the previous 2 years. There wasn't, the last couple of years, it's been somebody with 19 or 20, and then second was 17,
12,
and then boom, it just down there. A couple guys caught them, and then everybody else struggled. But it's been nice and well-rounded, which means it's got a nice it's got several classes of fish that are finally starting to get up to that 15-inch range.
Well, I was talking to Menendez because he's a big war on carp guy. And I got pro staff that are down on Lake Wheeler, Wilson, Pickwick. All those Pickwicks got Asians in it. And so they were talking about how much the current goes and all. And I'm telling them, I'm trying to say, you guys need to fight this right now. You need to fight it because, it's not going to get better if you don't if they don't stay on top of it. And I don't know if the sound barriers, I haven't seen all the data on it. I'm not a good one for the Asians. I just know the bottom line that I got guys that say they went out for 3 hours and they had 4 fish weighing 18 pounds. I'll take that any day of the week.
Oh, heck yeah. That's a good solid weight.
And when they first started banging real hard and everybody started noticing them, that we had a kill. I don't know that they ever figured out what killed a bunch of them, but they were like running into your boat and everything else, and then they jump up on the bank and, they jump up on the bank and die. It's a weird little thing, but the other weird thing is they're good eating, but the problem is you got to clean and clean and clean and clean, but you can have a 10-pound fish and get, 2 pounds of meat off of it, but it's probably some of the best. They eat plankton. They're filter feeders. But whenever you got a 2-year-old fish that weighs 7 pounds, they're eating a whole lot of plankton.
So does that mean that a vegan, like somebody that's on a vegan diet, could eat them because all they're eating is zooplankton?
What's this vegan thing you talk about?
We'll say vegetarian. It's basically a vegetarian fish, right?
I don't know. My food eats
You don't want any hate mail.
vegetables. My food eats vegetables. I walked out.
I don't know. Cows eat grass. I sure like a steak.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And I aggravate my grandkid and tell him, how does a black cow give white milk? Or and he's like, well, do black cows give chocolate milk? No. How can they eat green grass and make white milk? I don't know.
Yeah, it's some of the mysteries of the universe right there.
Yeah, but no, I mean, on Kentucky Lake, and I haven't got much report on the river, the Tennessee River. I love fishing below the dam. I really do. Even though I hate the Asian carp down there because they'll run into your line so many times and you'll set the hook on nothing a million times. But I love fishing on the Tennessee and Cumberland rivers. If you're ever fishing Kentucky Lake, it's almost worth taking a day and just running down the bank trying to find an eddy and catch you some fish. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you feel overwhelmed by this big lake. It gets overwhelming, but anytime they got a wind they're saying 10 to 15 out of the north or out of the south, try to make sure you're around a bay like Blood River, Jonathan Creek, any bay to where you're not having to make a long run, because I've had 5, 6. I one time launched I got a 20-foot Ranger and I launched it and it was almost 90 degrees up. I mean, and it came back down. I come off of a 5-foot wave right as I went under the Egner's Ferry Bridge. That's the bridge that barge hit a few years back. I come out from underneath it, wasn't even expecting it. All of a sudden I hit a wave and I was like, oh crap, if I let the nose drop, I'm gonna go about 5, 6 foot underwater. So I gunned it and jumped, and my boat, that wave kept getting bigger. I launched it straight up in the air, come down, motor and everything went out of the water, and I popped out like a bobber. But that was a south wind, and it's a funnel, even though it's not much of a funnel, but it's a funnel right there. And you come under the bridge and had a south wind, and that waves were hitting it, and you couldn't see them.
Yeah,
this lake can get treacherous. Stay inside them marker buoys.
Yeah, 10 to 15 means 20 to 25 on Kentucky Lake.
Exactly. And it sounds like we're joking when we say something like that, but you're talking about an area, you got a lake that, in places is 1 mile, 2 miles wide. So that 10-mile-an-hour wind doesn't have nothing to stop it, and it does gain momentum. And you get out there, that 5 to 10, I go, that's 10 to 15, and you start hitting some serious rollers, it'll tear you up pretty quick, and it'll make you have a bad back. That's for sure.
So if somebody was going to Kentucky Lake right now, this weekend, what kind of areas are they need to be looking for?
I would probably, you can catch fish on the north end. A lot of the fish that were being caught are south of Egner's Ferry.
Okay.
From Blood River on south, you can catch fish up north, but the majorities of the fish, you can still catch them on the main lake points. When the water's not ripping 270,000, but when it levels back out, they'll still be able to catch them on the points, but mainly head up in there and find you some bushes. We got water coming up. It's time to flip a bush. I will tell you that one of my best high muddier water is a black crawdad. Just black crawdad. They've got the rage, you can throw a rage crawl, you can throw a pocket crawl, but throw, a black crawdad and you'll catch the biggest fish, the biggest fish I have ever had on was probably over 8 pounds, and it was on a black crawdad.
Okay.
Chatterbaits and whatnot, I haven't heard too many, the guys not really tearing them up right around here on chatterbaits. They are catching some. Big swim baits, they're definitely, they always catch fish on this lake. This is a great lake for you to learn how to throw a big swim bait, 5 inches plus, 5, 6 inches. It is a great lake for you to do that on. I know on Pickwick, I know if you watch the Bassmasters, the smallmouth are running up by the Wilson Dam, but they're catching fish all the way up and down that river. Okay. And if you follow the fishing, how they got you know, the transition, you see the arc of the spawn. I love hitting. I like Gunnersville. I figure a lot of stuff out on Gunnersville. I don't figure these 30-pound sacks out. I mean, I can catch a good sack, but Pickwick, Wheeler, Wilson, those lakes like that are really good lakes for you to, you know, get that swim bait going. And if you're just going to go out and fish, they're good lakes for you to learn how to fish it. You just, you know, leave the rods in the rod box, lock it up, throw away the key, and just throw a swim bait and learn how to use it. The only thing you want out is different size heads, 3/8, ½ ounce, you know, unless you're fishing the current, you may get up to a 1 ounce. There's a lot of different jig heads. Brent Anderson had one that he made that had when you put the bait on there, it had a screw on it, and you can kind of twirl and it holds that thing on there. You don't have to glue it or anything. I really like that one. And Brent's kind of well known here on Kentucky Lake, you know, and it was a Baja jig.
Yep, I remember when they came out with those.
Yeah, they're awesome jig heads. I love them. I've tried the Squadrons. I don't mind those. You know, there's a handful of them. I can be brand loyal. I mean, you showed me that Cumberland crawl or the Cumberland
Procaster jig.
Yeah, the one that's, you know, it's got the wire, the screw lock, but it flexible. It moves. I love that. I've never seen it.
Oh yeah, you're talking about their magnet
stand up.
sticky head. Yeah,
I love that thing. It was an awesome looking. I'm gonna have to get me a handful of them.
Yeah.
But Texas rig, you know, most of the thing that guys are catching, like I said, are jigs, crankbaits, and big swim baits.
Okay.
Spinnerbait bite is out. I mean, I don't know what it is this year about a spinnerbait on Tennessee River or everywhere really. Guys are reprising this spinnerbait bite, and they're catching them here too on a spinnerbait. And I
hate to see that. I really do.
I don't like a spinnerbait. I'm sorry, guys. I just don't. You know what? I like a spinnerbait at nighttime. A big thumping spinnerbait. Woohoo! You know. Jay Beffa, actually, me and him went out, and I'm gonna give away one of his secrets. We went out in the evening, and he was throwing. It was kind of muddy water, and it was high, and we was practicing. He was fishing a tournament, and he had this bright methylate fluorescent red blade, like the little Colorado.
Yeah,
and caught a few fish. I don't know why. At nighttime now, I have to have that on there. I catch fish on it.
Confidence.
It was all because, you know, I felt like a goober. I was like, wow, that to me, I'm like, man, that's kind of ugly. How many? There's your question. What's the ugliest bait you've ever thrown?
Probably something I made. I know.
Space Monkey by Strike King.
Yeah.
That thing is ugly. And me and my buddy, one of my partners, I'm telling you, that's the ugliest thing ever. It's got more tentacle. It's like you're throwing an octopus. It was like you glued 3 things together to make one bait.
Uh-huh.
But he loves it and catches fish on it. Menendez, where was it? One of his first tournaments, that's what he was catching on, the Space Monkey.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
It's a darndest thing, but that's one of the ugliest things I ever seen. I caught about a 3-pounder on Lake of the Ozarks, throwing one of the original like fire tiger colors that you see, you know, that was a bright chartreuse, bright red, orange, bright green, and had what was the name of that? Anyway, it had the painted blades that were the same colors. I had no business throwing this thing, and I had one come out and hit it. I don't know why. I still hate throwing it.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. I know over on I saw somebody talking about Devil's Kitchen a Little Grassy earlier, and first time I saw somebody throwing just a straight up orange crankbait, or maybe it was like a bright school bus yellow. I can't remember. It was a really loud crankbait. It was on Devil's Kitchen in that really clear water. I mean, you're talking 12-foot visibility, and these guys were out deep throwing these really bright crankbaits through the standing timber. And I'm like, what are they doing? But I guess I'm catching fish on them.
You know, I talked to Iconelli, and he does that too. He likes throwing a bright red in clear water. crystal clear water. A lot of people don't understand that whenever a bait gets underneath 7 foot, with the light penetration, the bass see it a different way. Like a pink bait starts looking silver. A blue bait it's shades of gray at that point. And they start, the deeper you get. I've played around with some paint that changes in water temperature. I can have it in my hand, it'll be blue, and I cast it out, and whenever I reel it in, it's white.
Whoa.
And then I can grab it and warm it up, and when I throw it back out, and it's blue, but as it's diving, it's changing colors.
Yeah.
It sounds
like
cool.
Those thermos mugs where you hold.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
I've got every kind. I'm sitting here looking at about $1 million worth of paint, every different kind, because I get asked that all the time. But I go anything from urethanes to water based, and I try. I'm not necessarily trying to come up with the next new thing, but I'm trying to come up with the next best thing. I'm trying to match colors, and I'm trying to match something that I see in the water. And that tends to make it a little more interesting.
Ron, let me hit this question real quick for Ron. Russ and Logan has a question here. Anyone know the hours of the tournament tomorrow on Egypt? I know you're fishing that one.
Yeah, it's 7 to 3 tomorrow morning out of Pyramid.
Okay. Good deal. Well, let me, Mike, you can stay on here for a little bit. We're going to kind of start wrapping this up. I'm just going to read through some of these fishing reports that some of the people had given me before I forget about them. There's some guys wanting to get some of these updates. My buddy Jerry Sterling, aka Mr. Sandwich, my tournament partner,
Mr. Sandwich.
he had a pretty good tournament over on Kinkaid. So here's a Kinkaid report for you guys. He was over there Saturday. They ended up catching, I think they had 15 plus pounds. They got second place in that Perryville Bass Club. And I just got off the phone with him right before we went live. He said the water temps were like 48 to 56. So that's a pretty good spread there. The main lake was really muddy. Paul Ice area was about 1.5 foot visibility. And they caught their fish flipping around the wood. And they were about halfway back in some of these coves and pockets. They also got bit on some of the secondary points. And it was just jigs and soft plastics. They said they're seeing a lot of people throwing spinner baits. Didn't see people catching fish, but there was enough people throwing spinner baits that seemed like that was a pattern that was, working for some people. Kevin Kane, he sent me a picture from Newton Lake, and it was straight up chocolate milk. So he's thinking this was on the 24th. He's thinking that they're about to spawn. Ricky Orick, he sent me a couple reports. Clearwater Lake. I also got some intel from Doug on Clearwater. So it is at 520 right now. Summer Pool's 498. So it's 22 feet above Summer Pool. And the water visibility is 1 to 2 feet. Water temps are about 56. Ricky said the warmest he found was 56. Let's see. Okay, Bismarck Lake. He also sent me a report on Bismarck Lake. If you guys are fishing Bismarck Lake, this is from Monday. The water temps were 54 to 56, and the visibility was 1 foot or so. That's all he gave me on that. And we got a report on Old Frankfurt Lake, which is in West Frankfurt. Jeff Clark sent this to me. He said Wednesday he was over there, and the water temps were 58 to 59. The watercolor was 8 to 10 inches of visibility. And he said he caught one bass on a shallow diving crankbait. And then Lake of the Ozarks. I didn't get much on Lake of the Ozarks. I just called. I tried to call Mike. My buddy Mike's down there pre-fishing for a tournament, and he didn't answer the phone. But the levels is 658, and they're pulling 49,000. Summer Pool is 660, so it's almost at Summer Pool. Actually, Cody Arnold had sent me Facebook message right before we went on, and I also messaged Jack Uxa. I think how you say that, Uxa, and he said he's been out there. He's a guy down there at Lake of the Ozarks. He said it was 50 degrees and stained, and so Cody sent me this report. He said he was on Lake of the Ozarks Friday, March 26th. I'll just read the whole thing. It's kind of detailed. So he launched from PB2 at 7:30 a.m. Water temp was 47 degrees. Visibility was 6 inches. And he said he ran down to the 6 mile marker in the Gravway. Water was 46. Visibility was a foot to a foot and a half. He fished keyed on secondary points and 45-degree banks, no bites, ran back into the glaze, and visibility was about 4 to 6. Water temperature about 53, and 53 in the south-facing shallow protected coves by early afternoon. Bite was slow after all the rain that week. And he also says that he did manage to catch some fish on a jig and jerkbait and square bill. And on March 27th, the Saturday, he went back out and the water clarity was 6 to 9. Temperature was 49 to 52. The bite was tough, but he managed a couple nice keepers on a 1/2 ounce white and chartreuse spinner bait with Colorado blades, and his big fish went 3.5 pounds. So there's the Lake of the Ozarks report. Let me see if I got anything else on here. And guys, while I'm thinking about this, everybody sent a lot of reports. It was good to see. I think I probably missed some because I didn't write them down right away, and they were way back in my messages. But I tried to get all this information compiled before we got on here. But it's really helping out a lot. And I know we had 3 guests on here tonight. Next week we'll probably just have maybe 1, so me and Ron can really kind of break down some of the lakes around here and get a little bit more detailed into some of the reports. But it was really nice to get a lot of feedback from these streams, getting some of these reports out there, and it just it's good to share that information. So when people go out and get on the water over the weekend or the day off, they can catch some fish. It's kind of a community. I think that's all the fishing reports that people sent me. So just making sure I didn't miss anything. We were going to talk about Carolina rigs, I know
Woohoo!
I know that's one of your deals. That's
the old ball and chain.
The ball and chain. Hey, it put 2 fish in the boat for me in that BFL. If it wasn't for that, I would have zeroed.
Here's the thing. I told Gabe, I told Gabe, I said, you want to stay consistent. If all else fails, throw the ball and chain. If he wants to tell you, what he put on it, that's fine. But you throw the ball and chain and you just you drag it slow when you can. Gabe was telling me his boater was moving a little quick a couple times. He pushed the button and he listened to me, and he was one of the guys that weighed in fish. Yep. And it'll keep him, it'll qualify, that thing will qualify you for a regional. And you hit just the right time, that thing will win you a tournament. Danny Moorhead, whenever I went out with him, he hates throwing it. Terry Bolton hates throwing it. Them guys, because they know it catches fish. Guys like David Fritz still throw it. David, if he's not throwing a crankbait, he's throwing a Carolina rig. That's just what he does. But it puts fish in the boat. I don't know if you guys, I was talking to somebody earlier, if you remember that South Dakota tournament that they had. David was leading it for 2 days, and then that last day it just fell off the face of the earth. He gave a tip that I'd never heard of before. He'd start out with like a 1.5 2 foot leader, and he couldn't keep the smallmouth buttoned up. And he kept shortening down. By the end of the tournament, he only had a 6-inch leader because it would keep him hooked up.
Huh.
He wasn't throwing it in grass or anything, so he's throwing it on rock. But if you stay consistent with it, it'll stay consistent with you, and that's what I say. My first thing I want to do, I'll throw it first thing in the morning. I'm throwing a crankbait. That's just what I like throwing. I'll throw a crankbait. I love a chatterbait. But if I need to catch something, I got 2 things I go to. I'll pick up a shaky head, and 90% of the time I got a Zoom Green Pumpkin Purple, which now Hawgz Custom Baits, they just made me some Cincos. Eric made me some Cincos, and he nailed the color. And I'll use that, but I'll throw a shaky head style. I like, like a bullworm, a Strike King bullworm, or the Magnum trick worm, Magnum finesse worm. And I don't run the hook right through the meat of it because I'm always thinking that's a lot of plastic to get caught up in a 2 or 3 aught hook. So, 6-inch leader.
Wow.
I measured it. Took 3 tries, but I finally got it out there.
So Bass Guy 1960 says,
I'm sorry, I sound country. In my brain, I don't sound as country as my voice does. I sound like a hillbilly hick, you know.
You sound like you're from St. Louis. I thought you was from St. Louis.
Hey, I graduated Festus, you know. I'm sorry. I didn't go to speech class. But no, they I like throwing them, but I side hook them. And that was one of the things at Moorhead. I think I was telling you about it, Gabe, on a tube. He was showing me don't put the hook right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
On a shaky head or anything like that. He moves it off to the side, and when he brings the hook back through for Texas rig, he just got just a little bit of skin on it, just holding it in there, and then buries the hook on the side. Son, that puts fish in the boat. That was a tip that was showed to me, and I mean it especially if you're throwing a tube with, you know, a bullet type weight, you know, it'll put fish in the boat for you.
Yeah, because a tube is notorious for missing fish. Just a Texas rig tube, that tube will ball up, and there's so much plastic there. I mean, a lot of times I'll definitely try to bend that hook up just as much as I can get away with without it getting up on everything. But it's super frustrating. So coming out the side of that makes a lot of sense. Totally makes sense.
You're still gonna Texas rig it. You're still just gonna skin hook it on the outside, bury your hook point, but there's not enough there. When they bite it, it rips it loose. It's tough on baits, but it's tough on the fish too. I mean, you get them in the boat.
Here's the Bass Guy 1960 says, how do you decide how long of a leader to use? I like the other day I was
well, it depends on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It depends on what I'm fishing. I start the longest leader I usually use, because I'm not fishing too much grass. You know, back in the day, they would throw, you know, that was what a Carolina rig was for. They could drag it and have a 4-foot leader to where the bait would stay on top of the grass. Well, I'm mostly fishing rock and wood and stuff like that. So I start out, the longest I'd ever start out would be a 2-foot leader. I usually start with an 18-inch leader. And mainly, you look at it, you measure from your elbow, you know, from about my elbow up to the tip of my finger. That's about how long it is. I'm not a guy that believes in having, say, 20-pound test main line and 8-pound test leader line. I'm sorry, I want as strong a line as I can get. I do use the swivel and bead. I'm not that big on. Other people are. They've seen Scott Martin use it and stuff like that. They'll put the double bobber stops and make a quickie Carolina rig. If you've never seen it or done it, you can put your weight on there and put you a bead, and then put 2 bobber stops on there and make a Carolina rig. But you don't have any knots. It goes straight from your rod straight to the hook. Yeah. And it'll make a Carolina rig. If you get hung in the rocks or whatever, though, it'll slide the bobber stops. Once they start sliding, you know. But you can use that fishing glue. I was talking to somebody today that was telling me about when they tie a braid to a floral leader, that they've got a knot glue. You could put that on it too. But yeah, you can. It works for people. I'm just the old swivel type. You know, I'm old school.
Ron, what's your opinion on leader length?
I'm the same way. I think I usually start off about 2.5 foot. It's just got to look right to me. I don't know if that, you know, it's for the lakeside fish. I've had success with about 2.5 feet, and I'm not fishing a lot of grass with it, so you don't really need
4-foot
a
leader.
real long leader.
Yeah.
And I do use mono for my leader. I'll use a heavy mono for a little shock absorber, and also to help lift the bait off the bottom a little bit. And then with braid for the main line, I'm just like him. I still use a bead and the swivel. I don't know. I'm not Carolina rig fishing unless that's what I've got on there. And then a lead weight, you know, everyone's going to tungsten, but for a Carolina rig, I really prefer lead. I don't want a real little heavyweight. It gets hung up too much. I'm just used to the feel of a big lead weight. And then on the business end, I mean, the imagination's the limit. And I really like when you have a tough bite, you can have a big 3/4 ounce weight and have, you know, a heavy enough leader line and still throw a finesse presentation. I've won some money in years past throwing a little finesse craw on a Carolina rig with a big weight. You know, the bait was a finesse, but I'm magnum fishing a big weight, and I've had a lot of luck with that in the spring.
I fished the Costa on Kentucky Lake about 3 or 4 years ago. I won a BFL down there, and I took that money and invested it in the Costa. And the guy, my first day partner, I think his name was Greg Jones out of St. Louis, and he was doing exactly what you were saying. He was fishing a 1 ounce Carolina rig with about a 18-inch leader in 3 foot of water, and he was catching spawning fish. And I had never seen anything like it. And I mean, he was making the longest cast. He had a big wide spooled reel. I can't remember I think it was I don't remember the actual reel, but it was something like a 300 series. It had a big old spool on it. And he was literally casting. He looked like David Fritz in one of those casting contests where he has a 1 ounce weight. He was casting so far. I bet he was making a 80-yard cast, 70-yard cast. And I'd never seen anybody cast that far, but he was just launching it. We were sitting out in the middle of these pockets, sitting out in about 12, 13 foot of water. And he was throwing all the way back to the back of that flat. And I mean, as soon as that thing would hit the bottom, he'd pull it once and there would be a fish on it. And that blew me away. I'd never seen anybody throwing a heavy weight that shallow and not just freaking the fish out. Me, I would think that explosion would freak them out, but I guess when they're on the bed, it was coming down and it was making them angry or something. They were coming over there and they were grabbing that brush hog I think he was throwing.
Well, have you ever heard of hickory nut hitting the water?
Well, that's true. That long cast, yeah.
It just
what
goes.
Were you saying, Mike?
A hickory nut hitting the water.
Well,
I mean, they hear things like that hitting the water and in the shallow water too.
That's true. But you're right.
I throw a crawl. This is a boy had made these from Precision Custom Plastics. I throw a crawl, and he sent these to me to try it out. And this is a darker red with a green pumpkin. And then I've got like I was talking about, Hawgz Customs. Them boys. Eric's been working with me on some colors they're hard to make. I mean, they are true custom colors, and I get called from people all the time, even the guys pouring soft plastics and stuff like that.
What's that, Ron? There. What is that?
Gene LaRue.
It's a little hand poured craw that my partner used to pour. He had a little bait company. He's not in production anymore, but that's just a little rascal. It's about 3 inches. And that's the bait I won some money on the Devil's Kitchen tournament years and years ago, Carolina rigging, when those fish weren't quite up yet. And that's
have you ever seen the
Carolina rig? It's just.
Have you ever seen the black with the powder blue?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know when the best time to throw that is? Around a mayfly hatch.
Mayfly hatch?
Mayfly hatch. They think it's a bluegill looking, and my goodness, that a black with that powder blue, they will flat tear it up.
So here's the Hawgz Custom Baits worm. Right?
Yeah.
This is their shaky hog or shaky head worm. This is the Feral Junior. You can find them on Facebook. Like you were saying earlier, Mike, they're making some good stuff. Those new swim baits that he's designed with all the different colors in them, it's crazy. But these, this is basically a green pumpkin, but they've got just a little bit of chartreuse built in on the tail, which is kind of cool. I mean,
orange.
Yeah, maybe it is orange. I'm kind of colorblind, but
no. Well, it does look chartreuse and then orange, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you don't want to mess around with the spike it dye and you want that little bit of contrast right there. It's already in there. And it's thing I like about this is a lot of stuff that comes with the tail already dyed. It's all the way up in here. You know, you got to make like a 1 inch. I like that just a little tip is all you need.
Yeah.
A bit of contrast.
That's all I like on a Zoom trick worm type thing. I just do the ball, just the very end of it.
Yep.
The thing is that if you're fishing water that's got spotted bass or smallmouth, you want chartreuse. I don't care what color. If it's green or brown worm, you want it to have chartreuse because they will flat attack it. You'll catch more fish on it. Now that he's got that green pumpkin purple dialed in, I'm actually going to try to get him to make me some with some real fine gold flake in it with the green pumpkin purple. Just give it that little bit of flash.
Mm-hmm.
But I dip that tail, just a little bit of it. I like JJ's Magic. You guys may like Spike It. JJ's Magic, the only problem is that you got to keep it cool. I keep it in my cooler because you open it up when it's hot, you're going to look like you got jaundice, and so will your boat because it'll spew in a perfect circle all the way around it, and it'll turn your legs yellow. You'll go walking in, people look at you and go, JJ's? It's like, yeah, JJ's. But stank, if you go to open that up in the house, let's say, you know, your wife's making you mad, just open up a bottle of JJ's. And she'll run out of the house, and you know when you leave, she'll throw all your stuff out in the yard. But
yeah.
you know, it's got such a strong, potent. You know how you get the hot sauces, and they got just the flavoring of or the whatever they call it that makes a jalapeno hot or a ghost pepper hot. It's like that. The garlic is so intense. You're going to want to eat some pasta for a week, but it will stink your whole house out. The other thing I am a big believer on is I believe in sense. I believe in sense wholeheartedly. I mentioned my old fishing partner, Randy. We were fishing a tournament. We had 4 fish. No, we hadn't said the L word. And we pulled up in this one spot on Barkley. And I said, just the heck of it, JJ's. And I'm not sponsored by them or nothing. I mean, it's just I believe, you know, I've used their product and I like it. They have a clear garlic scent. I dipped my whole bait in there. I was like, heck with it. I threw it out there 4 consecutive casts. I caught 4 2.5 pounders in 4. He wasn't catching nothing. I go, dip your worm. He's like, yeah, I'm all right. 4 consecutive casts. I caught 2.5 pounders. Yeah. And since then, I went to where I don't know what you guys' favorite scent is, if you use any. I dip snuff, so I like to, you know, kind of cover up. You know, and if I get gas that morning, you know, I'm not wearing rubber gloves. I should be. You know, I deer hunt, so I know what it means to cover your scent up. But I use Bang for the longest time, the crawdad formula. I've switched over to using Strike Force. And if you guys have never tried Strike Force, you've got to look it up, and you got to get it. And again, I'm not sponsored by them. I know the boy who owns it. He's a really super good guy, but I'm telling you, there's a big name pro, and he might have Academy on his jersey that you know about. He'll buy it 2, 3, 4 bottles at a time, but you can put it on your bait. I can walk down to my dock and throw it out and just let it sit there, and all of a sudden a fish will grab it. I call it marinating your bait.
Marinating your bait.
I'll throw it in the water and marinate it. You know, whenever you got a dead stick it, you drag it a little and just don't move it. And then all of a sudden, boom, but they will flat with that Strike Force. And there again, it stinks. I mean, it stinks bad. But it is awesome for, you know, I get more bites using it. I don't doubt it. Nowadays, whenever I'm fishing a tournament, I just put it right in my pocket because I'm going to use it. You know, I'm going to use it consistently. So that's the 2, you know, for me that actually I found it to work. There's numbers that I get working in this industry, you know. 30% seems to be a good number. If you're throwing a Carolina rig, you keep your rod tip low to the water. You never let a bunch of slack get into it. You keep tension on it. You'll catch 30% more fish. In my opinion, I put a crawdad like you were.
Strike Force?
Strike Force. It's awesome stuff. I know, and I don't mean to name drop or nothing, but I know Jacob Wheeler uses it. Whether you like them, love them, you know, there's all these fishermen that people either like or love or hate, you know, but it is just very good stuff. I love them all. You gotta love everybody.
Yeah.
I don't like any of them.
Yeah.
Let's answer a couple more of these questions, and we're gonna shut this sucker down.
All right, buddy.
Ron's got a tournament in the morning. I gotta deliver mail, and you got baits to paint. But Silent Night has left this a couple times. He said there's a curly tail worm with tungsten 1/4 ounce weight tomorrow, fishing the cold finicky fish, and basically he's asking if that's a good choice for a farm pond. And just real quick, if you don't own any of this, the Berkeley Max scent, Silent Night, in a real tough situation, this is basically a Cinco, just a stick worm, but this has a lot of scent. We've been talking about scent, and this is something you can throw out, and when the fish are in a negative mood, you can just let it sit, and you can just move it just a little bit and just let it sit, and those fish will actually swim up and they'll swim over and pick this up because it's putting out so much scent. But stick bait in the conditions that we got,
that would be a good option for that pond that Silent Night's talking about.
Yep, exactly. I think that's going to work for you. Just a Cinco. It looks stupid. You're like, what is that? What's that represent?
It's like a flat finish. That's the only weird thing to me about it when I first seen them. That flat finish, they're not shiny.
Yeah.
But you can't deny, that those things catch fish. I've said it once, I'll say it again. Berkeley is a whole group of fishing nerds. And I don't mean that bad. They are, they engineer a bunch of that stuff. And the Berkeley Power stuff has been around forever, and it's won tons of money. So
yeah, it's good, solid stuff. All right, Mike, we're gonna shut this sucker down. I really appreciate it coming here. It was good hanging out with you, and I'll be in touch.
Yeah, thanks.
Anytime, guys.
So
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, man. Good luck with all your baits tonight.
Appreciate
I got 20 of them.
All right.
All right.
See you.
Bye.
See you, buddy. All right, guys. That was fun. We've been going for quite a while. Like I said, Ron's got a tournament in the morning. Thanks for hanging with us. Had some pretty good guests. I hope you got some good information out of all this. And we're going to do it next week again. Next Monday, I've got a big guest. Me and Greg's got a pretty big guest. Hopefully we'll be doing the live stream up at Greg's house, the Backyard Bass and Bar and Grill. And I got in contact with James Watson, worldwide James Watson.
Oh, okay.
And he confirmed with me today. So he's going to be jumping on the stream with us Monday. So spread the word, man. Let everybody know. We're going to try to make this real big for him so he has a really good time and he can tell all his buddies, and then we can get more good guests coming on the show. So that's kind of how it works. And one thing I didn't mention was, if you really want to help these live streams out with the guests and stuff, after we have a guest on, if you go to their Facebook page or their Instagram and just let them know, hey, I really enjoyed the live stream. Lots of good content. It was good meeting you. If you want to throw a shout out to 10 Horse Money YouTube channel, I saw the stream on their channel. That means a lot to them. It's good positive feedback for them, for their sponsors, and
good reinforcement.
Good reinforcement, and it just lets them know that, hey, this was worth my time. There were some faces that saw it. My sponsors are happy because I promoted the product. We got to talk about things. It's just a win-win situation for everybody, and that's kind of the little subtle things that you guys can do to help us all get good guests on here and learn more from everybody. So we're going to shut this down. Ron, good luck tomorrow, man.
Thank you, buddy. We're just going to go fishing tomorrow, and cold front will be what it is. So in a sense, that just kind of puts that little old jig in my hand, and I can just relax, and we'll either catch them or we won't, but it won't be because that little jig wasn't in the water. That's right. I think you're going to do fine, man. You know what to do. You just got to go take a little bit of timing and maybe a little bit of luck and some warm clothes. So yeah. Crazy this. All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for
all right, buddy. You take care. Good job tonight.
All right, guys, everybody. Peace out. We're out of here.
Later.